So in this video, we're going to talk about 3 different modalities that we can integrate to mean the same thing, so we can understand that the entire universe is conspiring to our awakening. I mean, we've had so many different ways, because remember, we're all fractals of God, and we were creator, universe, however you want to describe it. So we're all going to have a different, way of seeing things. And so all of these things can mean one thing to not one person and another thing to another, but when we start to integrate and all see things from a more universal point of view, that we can get into more unity consciousness, it would make sense that we could meld 3 different teachings to mean the same thing, and then get to the beautiful thing is what it all means in one small, piece that they all carry within them to actually have profound change in our consciousness. And so today we will be talking about the law of attraction, uh, the Bible, and its spiritual awakening as the same thing. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's use some terms here that we can make them relative to each other. So in the Bible, Jesus says that the only thing that matters, I mean, pretty much all his teachings are physics and, law of attraction. And I could go on and on about this because that's where my awakening started. I had eyes to see and ears to hear. I knew exactly what he was saying when I was, how old? Late 30s, that I'd never been able to see before. And so it was time. And so in the Bible, he says, nothing's greater than love. All things will be healed from joy, peace, love. Okay, so that's the biblical standpoint. And now in law of attraction, I mean, the most well-known law of attraction teacher in my book is Abraham. And so Abraham teaches that all things will come to us, or our heart's desires will come if we get in the vortex of creation. Okay. And then in spiritual awakening, so think of the word awakening, we're looking at expanding out of our current beliefs. That's what they teach. We are going through a spiritual expansion out of our current beliefs. And so I'd like to go with the first one talking about joy, peace, and love, right? Second one talking about the vortex. And the third one, sorry, I thought I was going to hiccup. The third one would be, the expansion. And so how we could look at all of those is we're trying to achieve the highest levels of consciousness. We have consciousness scale from Dr. David Hawkins, and we don't even need that. When you get to the place of self-awareness and start to master yourself, you're going to know. You're going to be like, oh my God, I got so mad. I said the wrong stuff. And I don't even remember saying half that stuff. Unconscious. Consciousness scale is very clear. Guilt, shame, anger, fear, deadly sins. Yeah, because that's when we commit to sinful actions, when we're in the lower states. And when we co-create with God, God is love, we're in the higher states, right? And so then let's look at this. Now we're understanding the Bible's talking about that, right? So then let's move into law of attraction. So in law of attraction, we're taught that we don't get what we want, we get what we are. And so getting what we are, it's hard to say that sentence, but it means, what are we vibrationally? I mean, in spiritual awakening, it's about remembering who we are. And if we put that together with this, as we'll move into, we're energy, plain and simple. I mean, even science doesn't disagree with that. The art of physics, though, is very, how can I say, thrown to the wayside when it relates to man-made mental science. Okay, so that science and physics really kind of aren't the same. But physics is still a modality of science that nobody can dispute. And so we can say that in physics and in law of attraction and in the Bible, it's saying in order to stay conscious and to co-create with God, which means love, highest state of consciousness, expand out of the lower one, spiritual awakening, into the higher, get rid of the things that are in our consciousness that keep us down, expand into the things that keep us conscious. So spiritual awakening is also about moving out of the lower deadly sins into the expansive creation, co-create with God, love, energies. So it's all the same. Okay, following me? So basically, if I get into the vortex of creation, I'm super awake and conscious, co-creating with God is love. God is the highest level of energy we can hold in our bodies, and then we can create what we want in the vortex. It just comes to us because the reason it's coming to us, it's not some woo-woo science. It's miraculous, no doubt, but miracles are happening all around us. The kingdom of heaven is everywhere, as Jesus said it. So what happens when you're in these conscious states and you're co-creating with God, because God can talk to you and you're awake enough to hear and see. That's the miracle. The sin energy in all three modalities are unconsciously, we are defaulting to the sins, mostly fear, anger, and guilt. And from those places, we are reacting, not staying awake to the miracles of the reality and going freaking bananas, causing our lives suffering. Okay, so be with me here. So Jesus was saying, you know, like how I was saying, like just defaulting to bananas, crazy crap, right? And when the reality around him and the people that were coming to him, we're going back to the Bible now, when Jesus would say, do the birds toil? You know, are you not, you know, do the flowers not bloom? Are they struggling? I mean, do you not think that you're more worthy than the birds and the flowers? Every hair on your head is numbered. You know, and it's funny because, you know, in law of attraction, we can think of it as frequencies, right? And so the numbers of frequencies, you know, the numbers of God, so to speak. I don't mean to laugh because it's quite comical, because when we talk about this stuff, it makes so much logical sense. It does. It's just like, oh my God, I get it. I'm going to have faith and trust, and I'm going to stay in love and joy and peace, just like Jesus taught. I'm going to go to church on Sunday. I'm going to get all jazzed up, and it's going to be great. And then you're in the parking lot, you get road rage. If you went to, shout out to my church in Vegas where I had my awakening, actually at the Hundo. You know, it just was a mega church, and it was mega crowded. And when we would leave, we were all like, what the heck? I mean, and it's way worse now. So my point and rant is, we can do all this conscious work. We can get what the Bible's saying. We can get law of attraction. But if we don't get the spiritual awakening, because that's the important part, and that's why I want all three of these in this video, to try to jog your mind to understand one thing, and that is we have unconsciousness in us. And the expansion is to get that stuff rooted out. Energy is never lost, it's only transformed. Rooted out up into our conscious awareness, so it's not just running in the background. What I mean by running in the background is that church example. We're all jazzed up for God, and I'm going to love my neighbor. I mean, I'm talking about my preacher man and all his guests. They always had me jazzed. I had freaking Rev Run at my church, y'all. And going out to the parking lot and experiencing all of that was such a duality for me. It made me realize I have an unconscious trigger here. In spiritual expansion, spiritual awakening is meant for me to awaken to the unconscious parts of myself so that I can get up there. So let's talk about how Jesus, Abraham, and the spiritual community talks about how we root this stuff out, because I want you to understand, consciously we get aha moments all day. I got them at church. I got them when I bit my tongue in the freaking grocery store because somebody skipped me. I got, like, okay, maybe they have somewhere to go, but we have these aha moments all the time, but then we go straight back to sleep because the thing that we're missing here is that we have to seed our unconscious with new beliefs that don't go against things. They go for things so that we don't lose our vibration. Because if our unconscious still has those beliefs, no matter how many ahas, we're not rewriting these. Okay, so they stay in the dark, they run here, and they're like holding us down from going to these higher places. And so what happens is then do shit we're not proud of. That's it. We just keep doing stuff we're not proud of. So then what happens? It becomes more of a shadow, more unconscious, because if we're not proud of something, we deny and repress. So spiritual expansion is, who knows what it's dictated by. I've had so many theories since my awakening in 2011. It's the solar flares. It's the planetary alignments. It's my higher self just trying to punk me. I mean, who cares? At the end of the day, we want to get to that higher place. And so the aha moments will come all the time because our consciousness is always conscious. But we got to get repetition in our unconscious of these beliefs. And the beliefs that we've been programmed into, and that can just be from our school friend on the playground, no conspiracy here, is us against them, me against you. And so every time somebody says something that triggers something where I have an opposing belief to what they're saying, I get triggered into the lower parts of consciousness. So wouldn't it make sense to do one thing for all of this that's now making sense of why we want to move up, and that's the only thing that matters? There would be only one thing that we have to do to start really doing the awakening that we need. What do you think that is? That is becoming self-aware. And what I mean by self-aware is, ooh, there it is. I'm in the parking lot after church. I was doing a million times better than I'm doing right now when this dude just cut me off. Almost hit my car. I got my babies in the car. I am so justified in being mad right now. Bam, there it is. My belief that I'm a better driver than you. I mean, we'll just make up a stupid thing. I'm a better driver than you, and you're a sucky driver is causing internal turmoil to me. And I could even go like the ego loves to pump up the darkness in us. It loves to keep us in these lower things because it thinks it's keeping us safe. Okay? Bad drivers, I'm a good driver. Cool, whatever. But we don't want to stay in that modality anymore because we want nothing to antagonize us to the lower emotions. And so how would we reseed that? And this takes repetition. Remember, consciously, I could get that right there. Like I said, all the time. I bit my tongue in line at the grocery store. I'm enlightened. No, enlightenment comes when we can stay in those higher things and we see the perfection of everything, those miracles, right? And so what we have to do is every time we have to reseed a new belief. So what the self-awareness is what is the real trigger here of why I just left church? I was at my top game and I was like, nothing or nobody can take me from this. And I get to my car and somebody cuts me off, almost hits me. It's all out the window. And then my ego justifies it. And then I start to repress that I became that crazy raged lunatic. And then I have two separate selves, my conscious self, my unconscious self. So what you have to start doing to become self-aware is see that that's happening. And then say to yourself, what's the belief? Well, let me change that belief. He has somewhere to be. I'll be fine. I didn't get hit. We have to really start, because we really think the universe and everybody in it is working against us. We just really at the deepest level have to see that we're all in this together. Separation versus unity consciousness is what is going to heal this. Empathy isn't feeling other people's emotions. It's putting themselves into their shoes in a positive way. That guy might have an emergency I know nothing about. I hope he gets where he's going safe. Guess what? I wouldn't be triggered. I would be moved to love. Yeah. So spiritual expansion is really about reseeding our unconscious over and over again with repetition, because it took repetition for us to get in this separation, me against them. And so now we have to be, we're in this together, and we have to consistently, every trigger, the self-awareness is just seeing the trigger, and you don't have to analyze too much. Overanalysis is not the goal. You really just have to say, oh, I'm triggered, and cultivate a better feeling. And sometimes you have to use your mind in just one small mantra. That's where mantras came from. Mantras are to reseed our unconscious. But if you're not doing it during the triggers, you might be causing more separation. Consciously, you're doing the mantras that go against your unconscious. The only time, in my opinion, you can really rewrite your unconscious so you're not re-triggered over and over again from the same things is when you're triggered, cultivate the better feeling and the better belief over and over again, and before you know it, it's gone. And I know this for sure because I've been doing it for over a decade. I have very little triggers anymore, and I have helped hundreds of people. So I hope you see where all three of these things are leading you to one thing and the only thing that matters, and that is emotional mastery, because your emotions are your energy, and energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transformed. And mastery means you're going to be the transformer. Yeah, so get on it. Use your triggers. Chase your triggers. Not to the point where you're just getting overly triggered, but don't stay at home avoiding the reality because you're super triggered. And that's what happens to a lot of us as we get older. If we haven't done this work, it's like every little thing is triggering, and so we don't even want to engage anymore. So get on it now is my ultimate advice. So I hope this video helped you. I mean, with looking at these modalities and how you can start to get your level up. And if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. And until next time, take care.